How many whoopee cushions would it take to stop a speeding car? Stick around for the most hilariously squishy physics ever. Alright, picture this. You're on the highway. A car barrels towards you at 100 kilometers per hour. And instead of brakes, tires, or basic logic, you've got one plan. Whoopee cushions. Thousands of them. Lined up like the world's silliest crash barrier. The question is, how many would it take to stop that car cold? Let's break this down, one fart noise at a time. First, the car. A standard sedan weighs about 1,500 kilograms. At 100 kilometers per hour, or about 27.8 meters per second, it's packing serious momentum. In fact, it has about 580,000 joules of kinetic energy. That's the energy you'd need to bring it to a full stop. Now let's talk whoopee cushions. Each cushion is basically a plastic bladder filled with air. Not exactly built for stopping cars, but if you did use them, each one might absorb around 20 joules of energy, just enough squish to briefly resist a really angry toddler. Now for the math. Take 580,000 joules of car energy and divide it by 20 joules per cushion, and you get 28,935 whoopee cushions. That's right. You'd need nearly 29,000 cushions, all lined up in a glorious road of rubbery resistance to stop a single speeding car. For perspective, that's enough cushions to cover an entire soccer field, enough hot air to fuel a mid-tier political debate, and if they all went off at once, you'd create the loudest, most juvenile sound wall in human history. Now this assumes perfect alignment, no cushion breaks, and somehow zero tire shredding along the way. So unless you've got a giant whoopee cushion factory, infinite patience, and no regard for traffic laws, this is one road safety plan, best left to comedy sketches. But hey, now you've got a stat that squeaks its way into everyone's memory. How many Tesla robots would it take to equal the net worth of the Hawk Tuah girl? Stick around to the end to find out. Imagine this. You're sitting there scrolling through Tesla's website when you stumble upon their humanoid robot, priced at $20,000. Then you think, how many of these robots would it take to match the net worth of the Hawk Tuah girl? A totally logical comparison, right? Let's do the math. The Hawk Tuah girl's net worth is estimated at $200,000, 10 times the price of a single Tesla robot. Divide her net worth by the cost of one robot, and you get 10 Tesla robots. So there you have it. It would take 10 Tesla robots to equal the net worth of the Hawk Tuah girl. How many gorillas would it take to match the weight of 100 men? Stick around for the wildest weight comparison on the planet. Alright, picture this. It's not a zoo and it's not a gym. It's just a big scale. On one side, 100 average adult men. On the other, a pile of gorillas, casually chewing leaves and not really caring about your science project. The question, how many of those muscle-bound primates would it take to equal the weight of the men? Let's break this down, one banana-loving unit at a time. First, the average man. A typical adult male weighs around 80 kilograms. Multiply that by 100 men and you get a combined total of 8,000 kilograms. That's more than a fully loaded moving truck. Now for the gorilla side of the scale. An adult male gorilla weighs in at around 160 kilograms. Basically 2 average men stuffed into one boulder of fur, strength, and raw jungle energy. Now for the math. Divide 8,000 kilograms by 160 kilograms per gorilla, and you get 50 gorillas. That's right. Just 50 gorillas to match the weight of 100 human men. A perfect 2-to-1 weight ratio. For perspective, that's a gorilla wrestling team that could absolutely flatten any field trip if you had to move them. You'd need a gorilla bus with very strong seatbelts. And if they formed a conga line, it'd be the heaviest dance party in zoological history. Now this assumes average weights, no banana bloat, and that the humans aren't carrying gym bags full of protein powder. So, unless you're comparing teams for the world's weirdest tug-of-war, this is one matchup that's best left to the imagination. But hey, now you've got a fun fact that makes every trip to the zoo a little more mathematical. How many toenail clippings would it take to weigh as much as a bicycle? Stick around for the crunchiest math you didn't ask for. Alright, let's set the scene. You're trimming your toenails. You're looking at the little crescent pieces you toss into the trash, and then, because your brain is a wonderful disaster, you think, how many of these would it take to weigh as much as a bike? Let's break this down, one clipping at a time. First, the bicycle. A standard road bike weighs about 10 kilograms, or around 22 pounds. Lightweight enough to lift with one hand, unless it's made of rust and regret. Now let's talk toenail clippings. Your average toenail clipping? We're talking about 10 milligrams, or 0.00001 kilograms per clipping. Tiny, harmless, weirdly sharp. Basically nature's way of saying, you're going to forget about me until I stab you through a sock. Now for the math. Take the 10 kilograms of the bicycle and divide it by 0.0000 1 kilograms per toenail clipping, and you get 1 million toenail clippings. That's right, you'd need 1 million clippings to match the weight of a bike. For perspective, if you clipped your toenails once a week and saved them all, it would take you over 19,000 years to get there. That's assuming zero loss, no sneaky vacuum mishaps, and zero judgment from your roommates. And if you tried to ride that bike, let's just say it'd be more horrifying than aerodynamic. Now, this assumes no clippings from fingernails, pets, or random horror collections, just pure toe power. So, unless you've got 1 million toes, a lot of free time, and no sense of shame, this is one bike best left in the realm of gross out math. But hey, now you've got a stat so absurd, it'll stick in people's minds longer than the scent of gym socks. How many jumping jacks would it take to charge a phone? Stick around for the sweatiest way to hit 100% battery. Alright, imagine this. Your phone's dead. You're off the grid. No charger, no wall outlets. Just you, your legs, and one question. How many jumping jacks would it take to power this thing back up? Let's break this down, one hop at a time. A typical smartphone holds about 3,000 milliamp hours of battery at 3.7 volts, which adds up to around 11,000 joules of energy to get from 0 to full. Now, a standard USB charger pushes out about 5 watts of power, meaning it takes about 40 to 50 minutes to charge a phone from empty. That equals charging at a steady 5 joules per second. Now let's say you're doing 1 jumping jack per second, a sustainable heart rate approved pace. Each one burns about 837 joules of energy. But here's the kicker. Your body is not a power plant. Most of that energy is lost to heat, sweat, and sheer effort. Even if you had a futuristic device that captured all of it perfectly, you'd still need to keep going for 7,992 jumping jacks. That's right, nearly 8,000 jumps just to get your phone back to full. It's like CrossFit, but instead of a six-pack, you get a Snapchat notification. For perspective, that's over 2 hours of straight jumping. You'd burn nearly 400 calories depending on your size and speed. And you'll definitely charge your phone and destroy your quads in the process. Now, this assumes 100% energy efficiency, no tripping, and that you've somehow turned yourself into a human dynamo. So unless you've got bionic limbs and a gym with built-in USB ports, this is one recharge routine best left to imagination, or your backup battery pack. But hey, now you've got the perfect excuse to skip leg day and plug in instead. How many kazoos would it take to drown out a marching band? Stick around for the most musically annoying math ever. Alright, picture this. There's a full marching band parading down Main Street. Drums thundering, tubas blasting, cymbals clashing, and then a different sound cuts through the air. Kazoos, thousands of them. And suddenly you ask yourself, how many plastic buzz tubes would it actually take to overpower the entire band? Let's break this down, one honk at a time. First, the marching band. A full-sized marching band can crank out sound at around 120 decibels. That's louder than a rock concert and approaching the volume of a jet engine. Basically, it's ear-shaking loud. Now let's talk kazoos. A single kazoo? Not so much. One buzzing soloist clocks in at about 85 decibels. Loud enough to be annoying at a birthday party? Not exactly stadium tier sound. Now here's the thing about sound. It doesn't stack like Lego bricks. It stacks logarithmically. To double the perceived volume, you don't just double the number of instruments. You multiply by powers of 10. So how many kazoos does it take to equal the sonic wall of one marching band? About 3,160 kazoos. That's right, just over 3,000 buzzing humans, kazooing in perfect chaotic harmony, could match the volume of a band with tubas, snares, and cymbals. For perspective, that's more kazoos than most stores carry in a decade. Enough plastic to fill a school gym. And if they all played the same note, may the force be with your eardrums. Now, this assumes every kazoo is played full blast, no coordination needed, and the band isn't trying to out-volume the kazoo army. So, unless you've got a warehouse of instruments, unlimited lung power, and a total disregard for musical taste, this is one noise war best imagined from a distance. But hey, now you've got a sound-based stat that'll totally dominate your next trivia night. How many rolls of toilet paper would it take to reach the top of Mount Everest? Stick around for the most unnecessary climb ever. Alright, picture this. You're standing at base camp on Mount Everest. You look up, ice in your beard, wind howling in your ears. And instead of ropes or climbing gear, you've brought toilet paper. Why? Because you've got a weird question on your mind. How many rolls would it take to stretch all the way to the summit? Let's break this down, one ply at a time. Mount Everest, the tallest point on Earth, rises to a majestic 8,848 meters. That's nearly 5.5 miles of mountain to cover, assuming, of course, your TP doesn't blow away. Now let's talk toilet paper rolls. The average roll of toilet paper is about 38 meters long, assuming it's not the cheap kind that disintegrates when you look at it. Now for the math. Divide Everest's height by the length of one roll and you get 232.84 rolls, which means you'd need 233 full rolls of toilet paper to make it from base camp to the summit. For perspective, that's one roll for every 38 meters of altitude. If you unrolled all of them on flat ground, you'd cover the length of over 2,000 parked cars. And if a single roll tears, you're going back to base camp. Now, this assumes perfect rollout, zero wind, no moisture, and absolutely no Sherpas judging you. So unless you've got 233 rolls, a lot of tape, and a dream to make the world's least durable climbing rope, this is one expedition that's better left to your imagination. But hey, now you've got a random mountain fact to drop the next time you're stuck in the toilet paper aisle. How many gummy worms would stretch the entire length of the Mississippi River? Stick around for the mind-blowing answer. Alright, picture this. You're snacking on a gummy worm, stretching it between your fingers when suddenly, a completely ridiculous thought pops into your head. What if I line these up end to end across the entire Mississippi River? How many would I actually need? Let's break this down, one sugary worm at a time. The Mississippi River is massive, flowing 2,340 miles from Minnesota all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. That's longer than the distance from New York to Las Vegas. Now let's talk gummy worms. A single gummy worm is about 5 inches long, which is not exactly designed for long-distance coverage. Now for the math. If we take the total river length, 2,340 miles, and convert it into inches, 148.3 million inches, then divide that by the length of a single gummy worm, 5 inches, we get 29.65 million gummy worms. That's right. You'd need almost 30 million gummy worms to stretch from one end of the river to the other. For perspective, if you stacked 29.65 million gummy worms on top of each other, they'd reach past the International Space Station. If you ate one gummy worm per second, it would take you almost an entire year to eat your way across the Mississippi River. And if you melted them all down into one giant gummy rope, it would weigh over 3 million pounds of pure sugar. Now, keep in mind, this is just an estimate. The river isn't a straight line, and gummy worms aren't exactly precision-engineered measuring tools, so the real number could be even higher depending on curves and bends. So unless you've got millions of gummy worms, an undying love for candy-based geography, and absolutely no concerns about attracting an army of ants, this is one snack project that's probably not happening anytime soon. But hey, at least now you have a fun fact to drop the next time someone offers you a gummy worm. How many baguettes would it take to reach the height of the Eiffel Tower? Stick around to the end for the ultimate bread stacking answer. Alright, imagine this. You're strolling through Paris enjoying a fresh, crispy baguette when suddenly a thought rises like perfectly baked dough. How many of these would I need to stack to reach the top of the Eiffel Tower? A totally reasonable question, of course. Well, let's crunch the numbers and find out. First, let's talk about the Eiffel Tower. This iconic structure stands at 1,083 feet tall, including the antenna at the top. That's about the height of an 81-story skyscraper, or 272 stacked baguette delivery trucks. Now, let's break down the baguette. The average French baguette is about 26 inches long, which is a little over 2 feet. They may be delicious, but they're not exactly skyscraper material unless you have thousands of them. So how many baguettes do we need to reach the top? Since each baguette is 2.16 feet long, and the Eiffel Tower is 1,083 feet tall, we divide the two numbers, and the final answer? You'd need 502 baguettes stacked, end to end, to match the height of the Eiffel Tower. For some perspective, that's enough bread to make over 4,000 giant sandwiches, completely fill a small bakery floor to ceiling, feed an entire Parisian street festival for days. And if you actually tried stacking 502 baguettes, let's just say, stability would not be on your side. You'd have a tower of bread collapsing faster than a poorly built Jenga game. So there you have it, 502 baguettes to reach the top of the Eiffel Tower. Next time you grab a baguette, just imagine stacking hundreds of them to build the tallest bread structure in history. How many hours of Guitar Hero would it take to burn 10,000 calories? Stick around to find out. You might need some serious endurance for this one. Alright, let's set the stage. You're deep into a Guitar Hero marathon, fingers flying, strumming like a rock legend. But what if, instead of aiming for a high score, you aim to burn 10,000 calories just by playing? Could you actually shred your way to a full-blown workout? Let's crunch the numbers and find out how long you'd have to keep rocking. The number of calories burned during Guitar Hero depends on how intensely you play. Strumming, button pressing, and even some enthusiastic headbanging all add to the burn. Based on estimates for playing guitar, An active Guitar Hero session can burn around 150 calories per hour for a person weighing about 175 pounds. So, how long would you need to play to burn a massive 10,000 calories? If you're burning 150 calories per hour, you'd have to play for a mind-blowing 66 hours and 40 minutes straight. That's nearly 3 full days of non-stop Guitar Hero action. You'd probably need a snack break, or a few hundred. And if you wanted to pull this off in a single session, you'd be challenging some of the longest gaming marathons in history. For some perspective, 10,000 calories is roughly the same amount of energy as 40 cheeseburgers, 18 large pizzas, 200 chocolate chip cookies, 500 cans of soda. And let's not forget, Guitar Hero isn't exactly a cardio workout, so staying awake and keeping up your hand coordination for that long might be an even bigger challenge than burning the calories. Plus, your fingers might just give out before you get through the fire and flames on expert mode. But if you really want to burn 10,000 calories, there are a few ways to speed things up. You could jump around while playing, turn it into a full-body dance session, or even switch to Just Dance and double your calorie burn. But at that point, are you still playing Guitar Hero, or are you just in a rock concert of your own? So if you're looking for the ultimate endurance challenge, grab your guitar controller, fuel up, and prepare for the longest jam session of your life. Just maybe take a few breaks? How many helium balloons would you need to lift a Cybertruck? Stick around to the end for the high-flying answer. Alright, picture this. You're at a party with a bunch of helium balloons, and as you tie one to a chair, a wild thought crosses your mind. How many balloons would it take to lift something a bit bigger? Let's say a Tesla Cybertruck. You know, because who hasn't daydreamed about flying trucks? Well, buckle up, because we're about to float into some fascinating calculations. First, let's figure out the weight of the Cybertruck. Tesla's website claims the base model weighs around 6,900 pounds, or roughly 3,130 kilograms. That's about as heavy as an African elephant or 5,000 party-sized bags of chips. So yeah, it's not exactly light. Now let's talk helium balloons. The average helium-filled party balloon has a diameter of about 12 inches and can lift about 14 grams of weight. That's less than half an ounce, barely enough to lift a large slice of pizza. So how do we figure out how many balloons we'll need? First, we need to convert the Cybertruck's weight from kilograms to grams, since the balloon's lifting capacity is measured in grams. There are 1,000 grams in a kilogram, so the Cybertruck weighs 3,130,000 grams. Next, we divide that by the lifting power of one balloon. 3,130,000 grams divided by 14 grams per balloon. And the answer? You need a jaw-dropping 223,571 balloons to lift a Cybertruck off the ground. That's nearly 250,000 balloons. To put that into perspective, if you tied all those balloons together, you'd have a floating bundle the size of a small building. It's safe to say you'd want to avoid power lines if you ever tried this stunt. So, there you have it. 223,571 helium balloons to lift a Tesla Cybertruck. The next time you're at a party blowing up balloons, just imagine the sheer number you'd need to take your ride into the sky. How many slices of pizza would it take to cover the surface of the moon? Stick around to the end for the ultimate cheesy answer. Alright, imagine this. It's late at night, you're scarfing down a fresh pizza while staring at the glowing moon outside your window. And then, the question hits you. How many slices of pizza would it take to cover the surface of the moon? A question that every space-loving pizza enthusiast has surely asked themselves at least once. Let's dive into this out-of-this-world math problem. First, let's get some numbers. The moon has a surface area of about 14.6 million square miles. That's roughly 37.9 million square kilometers if you're on the metric system. It's not exactly small, it's about a quarter the size of Earth after all. Now let's talk pizza. The average pizza slice is approximately 14 square inches of cheesy goodness. That's about 0.09 square feet, or 0.0084 square meters. You can already tell we're going to need a lot of slices to pull this off. Next, we need to convert the moon's surface area into the same units as our pizza slices. 1 square mile equals 27.9 million square feet, so the moon's surface is a mind-blowing 407.5 trillion square feet. Time for the fun part. Dividing the moon's surface area by the area of one pizza slice. We take 407.5 trillion square feet and divide it by 0.09 square feet, the area of a single slice. And the result? Brace yourself. You'd need 4.53 quadrillion slices of pizza to completely cover the moon. To put that in perspective, that's about 1 million pizzas for every single person on Earth. NASA might have to call up every pizzeria in the universe to make this happen. So there you have it. 4.53 quadrillion slices of pizza to cover the moon, enough to feed an intergalactic pizza party. How many pairs of Yeezys would it take to cover the floor of a standard one-bedroom apartment? We've all had those moments, right? You're lounging around your apartment in a pair of your favorite Yeezys, and suddenly you wonder, what if my entire floor was made of Yeezys instead of this boring old carpet? Let's face it, it's not exactly a normal thought, but who doesn't want their life to be one giant runway? So let's dive in. A standard one-bedroom apartment is roughly 750 square feet, perfect for a chill vibe or, a massive Yeezy installation. Now, a pair of Yeezy Boost 350S covers about 0.722 square feet. So when you do the math, you need about 1,038 pairs to cover that space. But wait, before you start turning your living room into a sneaker paradise, we have to account for real-world constraints like furniture and shape irregularities. After putting this into consideration, the number rises to about 1,051 pairs. So let's just round it up to 1,100 pairs to be safe. Just think about it. A sea of Yeezys on your floor will not only be a sight to behold, but also a pending disaster for anyone trying to walk around. And just for fun, with each pair costing about $200, that's a solid $220,000 luxury floor. So there you have it. If you want to transform your standard one-bedroom into a Yeezy exhibition, you'll need around 1,100 pairs. How many Monopoly $500 bills would it take to match Jeff Bezos' net worth? Stick around to the end for the surprising answer. Imagine this. You're sitting at your dining table, strategically placing your hotels on Park Place, ready to take down your friends at Monopoly. And as you rake in your pile of colorful bills, a bizarre but typical millionaire's thought strikes you. How many of these Monopoly $500 bills would it take to match the wealth of Mr. Jeff Bezos himself? Fear not, that's a sign of a healthy financial hunger. You should probably tell your friends about it. But hey, I'm equally intrigued. And it's about time we settled this crazy math. According to some completely trustworthy sources, most likely one of them includes Google, Jeff Bezos' net worth as of today is about that modest figure of $241.2 billion. That's like owning all the properties in Monopoly, buying hotels on each of them, and repeating the process a gazillion times over. Now let's get into the fun part, Monopoly money. The highest denomination in the game is the $500 bill, slightly less potent than your average credit card. But hey, it's the big fish in this colorful money pond we're diving into. Ready for some number crunching? Assume one Monopoly $500 bill is equal to $500 in real-world Bezos bucks. You'd have to divide his net worth of $241.2 billion by $500. Oh boy, that's a jaw-dropping 482.4 million Monopoly $500 bills. So there you go. You'd need an earth-shattering 482.4 million Monopoly $500 bills to match Bezos' net worth. I bet you're now inspecting that Monopoly box for an unused hidden stash to act on this info. Clap yourself on the back because you've now obtained the kind of knowledge that no socially normal conversation ever demands. How many moldy lunchless would it take to fill a landfill? Stick around to the end to find out. Imagine this. You open a fresh box of lunchless ready for that pizza, only to discover the cheese has turned into a fuzzy, moldy nightmare. You toss it out in disgust, but then wonder, how many moldy lunchless would it take to fill an entire landfill? Naturally, we had to crunch the numbers. The average landfill spans about 600 acres and is typically 50 feet deep. Converting that to volume, 1 acre equals 4,840 square yards, so 600 acres is 2.9 million square yards. Multiply that by a depth of 50 feet, which is about 16.67 yards, and you get a total volume of about 48.3 million cubic yards. Now, onto the lunchless. We'll assume each lunchless measures around 2.31 inches by 8.00 inches by 6.12 inches, or roughly 113 cubic inches. Converted to cubic yards, that's about 0.0021 cubic yards per lunchless. Here comes the math. Divide the landfill's 48.3 million cubic yards by 0.0021 cubic yards per lunchless, and you'd need an astonishing 23 billion moldy lunchless to completely fill it. So there you have it. It would take 23 billion moldy lunchless to fill the average landfill. How many bags of Doritos would fit inside the cargo hold of a Boeing 747? Stick around till the end of this video to unravel this crunchy mystery. So, you're sitting in a 747, clutching your single bag of Doritos like Gollum with the One Ring, contemplating why you're not in business class where the snacks flow like wine. And suddenly, out of nowhere, a question grapples your brain cells. How many bags of Doritos would it take to fill this massive bird of steel? Don't worry, it's a totally natural thought that you might discuss with your pilot on your next flight. So let's break this down. We'll use the cargo-friendly Boeing 747-400F for this calculation. Altogether, we've got 790 cubic meters of cargo space. Meanwhile, a solo bag of Doritos measures almost 0.008 cubic meters. That's around the size of a miniature poodle. From where I'm standing, I can't tell. Is that nacho cheese or Cool Ranch on your poodle? Here comes the zest of the problem, the packing efficiency. Dorito bags aren't exactly cubes, and we're not packing Tetris pieces here. So let's assume we can effectively utilize 85% of the available space. The math, it goes like this. Take the total cargo space, 790 cubic meters, and divide it by the volume of one bag, 0.008 cubic meters. That gives you 98,750 bags. Then factor in 85% packing efficiency. Multiply by 0.85. And the grand total, approximately 83,938 bags of Doritos. Yep, you could fill a 747 with about 84,000 bags of snack perfection. That's right. You could stuff this 747 to the brim with approximately 84,000 bags of Doritos. That's a party I wouldn't want to miss. I can see you right there, drooling at the thought or shuddering at the caloric implications. Or maybe just imagining the in-flight announcement. This is your captain speaking. We are experiencing some turbulence, from 84,000 bags of Doritos in the cargo hold. So, in conclusion, you could take approximately 84,000 bags of Doritos on a flight inside a Boeing 747. Now, who's ready for takeoff? How many Sour Patch Kids would it take to weigh as much as a Tesla Model Y? Stick around till the end of this video to find out. Right now, you're toting a family-sized bag of Sour Patch Kids to your cousin's birthday party instead of polishing your shiny Tesla, and halfway through your candy bag, you start to wonder, how many Sour Patch Kids would it take to weigh as much as my beloved Tesla Model Y? Suddenly, flashbacks of your 8th grade physics class rush back. Well, don't fret, you're not alone. An odd Sour Patch Tesla comparison fascination is totally a thing you might want to consult your astrologist about. But rest assured, I'm equally captivated, and so let's break this candy-filled conundrum down. According to what might just be the most accurate source of information in the universe, aka internet, a Tesla Model Y weighs a monumental 4,400 pounds, or 1,996,206 grams for us scientific candy enthusiasts. That's about the weight of 8 full-grown Siberian tigers, or about 10 times the weight of my last sugar crash. Now let's talk about the real hero of the day, the Sour Patch Kid. The average weight of these lovable, mischievous candies is a whopping 2.5 grams per piece. That's just enough to make me wonder why there aren't scientists out there still working on genetic engineering to create real-life Sour Patch Kids. Let's dive into the math, because who doesn't love a mental workout mixed with an excuse to talk about candy? We'll take our Tesla in gram form, 1,996,206, and divide that by the weight of a Sour Patch Kid. The mind-blowing, or cavity-inducing result is about 798,482.57. But since we can't exactly have half a Sour Patch, let's round up to 798,483 Sour Patch Kids. So there you have it, folks. You'd need to pile a mind-numbing 798,483 Sour Patch Kids to balance the scale against a Tesla Model Y. Oh, I see you now, making a beeline to the nearest Costco to buy bulk cases of Sour Patch Kids. But remember, artificial flavoring can be a slippery slope. As for me, I'm eyeballing my bag of Sour Patch Kids. I've only got enough to weigh up to a skateboard. My candy game needs leveling up. How many drones would it take to carry 1,000 New York-style pizzas to New Jersey? Stick around to the end to find out. Imagine this. You're throwing the ultimate pizza party in New Jersey, and you decide to deliver 1,000 hot, cheesy New York-style pizzas by drone. Wild idea? Let's do the math. A single New York-style pizza with its box weighs about 3 pounds. Multiply that by 1,000 pizzas, and you've got a whopping 3,000 pounds of pizza to move. Now, let's talk drones. A standard delivery drone like the DJI Matrice 300 RTK can carry about 6 pounds per trip, or just 2 pizzas at a time. Divide 3,000 pounds by 6 pounds per drone, and you're looking at 500 drones flying in perfect harmony to pull this off. So, to deliver 1,000 pizzas to Jersey, you'd need an epic fleet of 500 small drones. Basically, an airborne pizza army. How many ramen noodle packs would fit inside a college dorm mini fridge? Follow to the end of this video to find out. You're sitting in your dorm room studying for finals, knee-deep in textbooks. A thought abruptly breaks your focus. It isn't about Pythagorean theorem or Shakespeare's sonnets. Instead, you ponder, how many packs of ramen can I cram into my mini fridge? Because let's be honest, that's the kind of meal plan college appetite needs. Hold that thought. What's more thrilling than turning maths into a noodle stravaganza? According to some very intellectual calculations, which I've done using a tape measure and an empty fridge, here's what I found. The edible equivalent of a dorm room survival guide has approximate dimensions of 1.5 inches in thickness, 4 inches wide, 5 inches long. On the other hand, your chili haven stands at about 16 inches tall, 14 inches wide, 12 inches deep. Scrolling through the IKEA catalog was so fun. This is where the noodle magic trick begins. Align 1.5-inch thickness along the fridge's 14-inch width, the 4-inch noodle width along the 12-inch fridge depth, and the 5-inch noodle length along the 16-inch fridge height. Let's do some ramen equations. Divide the fridge dimensions by the ramen dimensions, and we get about 9 packs across width, 3 packs along depth, and 3 packs along height, because the grand total comes to approximately 81 packs of instant gratification. I bet now you're thinking about buying a second fridge just for your ramen stash, or maybe just wondering how you can get 81 packs delivered by tomorrow's study session. But remember, not everything that can fit in should. So there you have it. 81 packs of ramen can find their chilly home inside a college dorm mini fridge. How many Mario Kart races would it take to equal the runtime of the Super Mario Bros. Movie? Stick with me to the finish line to find out. Okay, picture this. You're at a friend's place, controller in hand, locked in a fierce race on Rainbow Road, and the question hits you. How many of these adrenaline-pumping Mario Kart races would it take to match the runtime of the Super Mario Bros. Movie? Perfectly normal thing to ponder on as you swerve to avoid a cheeky banana peel, right? Let's power up and race through this question together. The Super Mario Bros. Movie, yes, it's real, and it's spectacularly campy, has a runtime of 92 minutes. That's approximately the time it takes to make a perfect homemade pizza, or fall off Rainbow Road about 50 times. Meanwhile, when it comes to a Mario Kart race between dodging shells and avoiding frantic chain chomps, the average race lasts around 3 minutes. That's about the time it takes to eat a slice of that homemade pizza, if it doesn't end up on the floor in celebration of a win that is. So, let's rev up our engines, ready our bananas, and get ready to count some laps. If we divide 92 minutes by 3 minutes per race, we're talking about 30.67 races. Now, unless you have a habit of rage quitting midway, no judgment here, we'll naturally bump that up to a robust 31 full races. So you're probably already looking for your Nintendo Switch, excitedly thinking about this Mario Kart marathon, aren't you? As for me, I'm anxiously checking my blue shell counter, or rather, lack of it. So folks, it would take you roughly 31 Mario Kart races, or 92 pedal-to-the-metal minutes, to match the runtime of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. How many Lego Death Stars would it take to outweigh a real space satellite? Stick around until the end of this video so we can help you finally silence those pesky questions that keep you up at night. So imagine this. You're building your third Lego Death Star in your home office, amidst all the video meetings notifications, and you, in your caffeine-deprived stupor, get struck with a thought. How many of these would it take to outweigh an actual space satellite? A totally typical question that logically follows building a Lego Death Star, right? And naturally, you put down that miniature Vader and rush off to solve the mystery, no? Just me? According to my highly diligent research, also known as quick Google searches, a Lego Death Star weighs about 10 kilograms, and our average unassuming space satellite typically weighs in at about 1,000 kilograms. Super lightweight, right? That's like, I don't know, an adult polar bear? Let's do the math. Because we all miss those thrilling algebra classes from high school, am I right? Divide our satellite weight, 1,000 kilograms, by our Lego Death Star weight, 10 kilograms, and voila! We get about 100 Lego Death Stars. Yes, you heard it right, family. You'd need to stack 100 of those miniature galactic orbs with evil laser beams to match the weight of your run-of-the-mill space satellite. Now let me guess. You're now debating which Lego set to buy next to equal the weight of the International Space Station? Or what about the Golden Gate Bridge? For me, I'm left with Lego pieces up to the height of a garden gnome. I have some catching up to do. Let's be honest here, having any excuse to buy more Lego sounds good to me. So there you have it, folks. Roughly 100 Lego Death Stars would weigh the same as your average space satellite. How many White Claw cans would it take to fill an above-ground swimming pool? You're lounging in your backyard while contemplating why drinking summer seltzers feels like training for the Olympics, and suddenly it hits you. If I could fill my pool with White Claw cans, how many would that take? A completely normal thought for a sunny weekend, right? Well, let's dive into the numbers. First off, let's talk pool size. A 15-foot diameter, 4.5-foot deep above-ground pool, which is basically the arena of summer fun. This averages out to about 5,940 gallons of sparkling refreshment. ready to be cannonballed into, thanks to some quick cylinder math, which I definitely did while procrastinating something else. A standard white claw can hold 12 fluid ounces, translating to about 0.09375 gallons per can, perfect for those hot afternoons. Now it's time for the big reveal. All that math tells us you'd need approximately 63,360 cans to fill your pool. That's right, 63,360. Imagine the gloriously chaotic pool parties you could throw. Sorry everyone, the pool's closed. I'm filling it with seltzer. So there you have it. You'd need around 63,360 White Claw cans to fill up that summer oasis of yours. How many Tesla supercharger stations would it take to power Disneyland for a day? Picture yourself at Disneyland, ready to ride Space Mountain, and suddenly you wonder, how much energy does it take to keep this magical kingdom sparkly and electric? Totally normal thought, right? But hold on to your Mickey ears because we're diving into the numbers to find out. First, let's tackle the energy consumption of Disneyland. On average, this enchanting place consumes around 200 gigawatt hours a year. That breaks down to about 547 megawatt hours a day. Now that's a lot of churros. Next, we need to assess Tesla supercharger stations. Each supercharger can deliver up to 250 kilowatts, but let's be realistic. Most operate for about 4 hours a day, giving us about 1 megawatt hour per port. Multiply that by the 20 ports on a station, and you get roughly 20 megawatt hours per day. Now, divide Disneyland's daily energy consumption by the energy delivered by one supercharger station, and you find yourself needing about 28 stations under realistic conditions. But wait, let's factor in efficiency losses and the peak demand. We round this up to around 32 stations. So there you have it, folks. To keep the magic alive at Disneyland for a day, you'd need about 30 to 35 Tesla supercharger stations. How many Be Real posts would you need to match the data size of a single TikTok video? Picture this. You're deep into your social media scrolling, half laughing at your friend's awkward Be Real post, while simultaneously jamming out to the latest viral TikTok dance. Suddenly, a wild thought strikes you. How many Be Real posts would it take to equal the size of just one of those TikTok videos? Don't worry, we're in this together. Let's break it down. First, let's define our players. A typical Be Real post features 2 glorious images from the front and back cameras, averaging about 8 megabytes, while the average TikTok video, glamorously shot at 1080p, rolls in around 40 megabytes. Now do a little math with me. If we take our TikTok video size of 40 megabytes and divide it by the Be Real post size of 8 megabytes, we get, drumroll please, 5 posts. That's right, a whopping 5 Be Real posts needed to match just one TikTok video. Now, can you picture scrolling through your feed and turning every double selfie into a TikTok video? Talk about a social media crossover. So there you have it, 5 Be Real posts to compete with your friend's TikTok masterpiece. How many packs of Pokemon cards would it take to wallpaper the inside of a Tesla Model 3? As you're imagining yourself slowly driving your new Tesla, admiring the sleek design, you suddenly think, what if I could turn this magical car into a Pokemon paradise? Totally normal, right? I mean, who wouldn't want a Pikachu plastered across their dashboard? Let's dive into the numbers behind this delightful fantasy. First things first, how much interior surface area does a Tesla Model 3 have? After a little math magic, we estimate the total area to be around 14 square meters. That's enough space to showcase all your favorite Pokemon. Everyone needs that affirmation when stuck in traffic. Now, let's talk packs. A standard Pokemon card pack measures roughly 0.005544 square meters. Fancy, huh? Now for the real fun, let's do some math. If we take our total 14 square meters and divide it by the area of one pack, we get, drumroll please, about 2,526 packs of Pokemon cards required to turn your Tesla into a themed wonderland. But wait, to account for overlaps and mistakes, we should bump that up to about 2,905 packs. Now, if you're mentally calculating a Pokemon card fortune, you're looking at around $11,620 to make your Pokemon wallpaper dream a reality. So even though this sounds like a blast, ponder this. Do you want Pikachu giving side-eye every time you downshift? There you have it. To wallpaper your Tesla with Pokemon cards, you'd need around 2,905 packs. How many Squishmallows would fit inside a New York City studio apartment? Picture this. You're in your cozy 500 square foot NYC studio, sipping coffee while pondering why you're not squishing your way into a collection of adorable plush toys instead of tidying up. Suddenly, the big question hits you. How many Squishmallows could I possibly fit in here? Trust me, this is a totally relatable thought when you're trying to justify your obsession with super soft, squishy cuteness. But let's dive in and find out. First off, a typical New York City studio has about 4,250 cubic feet of space. Perfect for living, but not so ideal for hoarding plush toys. Now, let's talk Squishmallows. Each one is roughly the size of a basketball, with a volume of about 0.299 cubic feet. So far, so cute, right? But wait, before your mind runs wild with visions of a plush paradise, we need to consider the furniture. With a bed, kitchenette, and the occasional lonely chair, about 1,000 cubic feet of your apartment is already taken up. Talk about a space hog. Now it's time for some math magic. After subtracting that furniture volume from our total, we're left with about 3,250 cubic feet. Accounting for packing efficiency, because we're not out to win a game of Tetris here, let's say we can actually use around 1,625 cubic feet for our beloved squishies. Dividing that by the Squishmallows volume gives us a theoretical max of around 5,444 Squishmallows. But hold on, if you actually want to walk around, maybe prioritize your couch over a plush avalanche, you'll realistically fit somewhere between 500 to 1,000 Squishmallows in this apartment without turning it into a full-blown plush jungle. So there you have it, folks. While you could theoretically squeeze in over 5,000, let's keep it cozy and realistic at about 500 to 1,000 Squishmallows, enough to wrap yourself in softness without losing your sanity. How many milkshakes would it take to fill a hot tub? Imagine this. You're lounging by a hot tub, sipping on a milkshake, and a totally normal thought strikes you. What if I filled this entire hot tub with milkshakes? How many would it take to make this creamy dream a reality? Let's dive into this delicious calculation. First, let's size up the hot tub. A standard hot tub holds about 400 gallons of water, which is roughly 1,514 liters for those who prefer metric measurements. Now let's talk about our milkshakes. A typical milkshake from your favorite diner comes in a 16-ounce cup, which is equal to 0.125 gallons or about 473 milliliters. Here comes the fun part, math. To figure out how many milkshakes we'd need, we divide the total volume of the hot tub, 400 gallons, by the volume of a single milkshake, which is 0.125 gallons. The answer? 3,200 milkshakes. Yes, you'd need a whopping 3,200 milkshakes to fill a standard hot tub. That's enough milkshakes to serve a small town or create the most extravagant ice cream party ever imagined. But wait, what about the cost? Let's say the average milkshake costs about $5. Multiply that by 3,200, and you're looking at $16,000 to turn your hot tub into a dairy-filled paradise. That's a lot of cash for a lactose-laden soak. And then there's the flavor debate. Should it be classic vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, or maybe a layered Neapolitan hot tub for the indecisive among us? Imagine the swirls of colors and the sweet aroma filling the air. It's a dessert lover's dream. Of course, there's the cleanup to consider. Milkshakes are sticky, and once the party's over, draining and cleaning the tub would be less than sweet. But hey, every great experiment comes with challenges, right? So there you have it. 3,200 milkshakes and $16,000 to turn your hot tub into a frothy, creamy wonderland. How many Lego bricks would it take to build a replica of Mount Everest? Picture this. You're at home building a Lego tower, and as you place that last brick, your imagination soars to new heights, literally. You wonder, what if I used Lego bricks to recreate Mount Everest? How many would I need to build the tallest mountain on Earth? Let's embark on this epic brick-by-brick journey together. First, let's size up Mount Everest. The mountain towers at an incredible height of 8,848 meters. That's 29,029 feet. And its approximate volume is around 3.8 trillion cubic meters. That's a massive pile of rock and ice. Now let's talk about Lego bricks. A standard Lego brick measures 1.6 centimeters tall, 3.2 centimeters long, and 1.6 centimeters wide. Its total volume is 8.2 cubic centimeters, or 0.0000082 cubic meters. Small but mighty when multiplied. To figure out how many bricks we'd need, we divide Everest's total volume, 3.8 trillion cubic meters, by the volume of a single Lego brick, which is 0.0000082 cubic meters. Here comes the math. 3.8 trillion divided by 0.0000082 equals 463 quadrillion Lego bricks. That's 463 quadrillion bricks. Yes, you'd need more Lego bricks than there are stars in the Milky Way. Let's put that into perspective. If you lined up all those bricks end to end, they would stretch across the Earth's circumference more than 10 million times. Or if you stack them vertically, you could reach the moon and back. several hundred times. But wait, what about the cost? A single Lego brick costs about 10 cents on average. Multiply that by 463 quadrillion, and you'd be spending a jaw-dropping 46.3 quadrillion. That's more than the GDP of every country on Earth combined. And let's not forget the time it would take to build. Even if you placed one brick per second without stopping, it would take you over 14.7 billion years to finish, longer than the age of the universe. So there you have it, 463 quadrillion Lego bricks to recreate Mount Everest, making it the ultimate Lego project for anyone with a truly cosmic amount of patience, funds, and storage space. How many shoelaces would it take to wrap around the circumference of Mars? Imagine this. You're lacing up your sneakers for a run, and as you tie that final knot, your imagination takes off. What if I use these shoelaces to wrap around Mars? How many would it take? A perfectly reasonable question, right? Let's unravel this cosmic calculation together. First, let's size up Mars. The circumference of the red planet is approximately 21,344 kilometers, or 21,344,000 meters. That's about half the size of Earth's circumference, but still a pretty big challenge for our shoelaces. Now, let's measure a standard shoelace. Most average shoelaces are about 1.2 meters long, perfect for a pair of sneakers, but quite small on a planetary scale. Here's where the math comes in. To figure out how many shoelaces we'd need, we divide the total circumference of Mars, 21,344,000 meters, by the length of a single shoelace, which is 1.2 meters. When we do the math, 21,344,000 divided by 1.2 equals 17,786,667 shoelaces. That's right, you'd need nearly 18 million shoelaces to completely wrap around Mars. Now let's put this into perspective. If you laid those shoelaces end to end, they'd stretch around Earth's equator more than 444 times. Or if you tied them together, you could create a Mars-sized jump rope, though good luck finding someone to swing it. But wait, what about the cost? A basic pair of shoelaces costs around $2. Multiply that by 17.8 million, and the total comes to $35.6 million. That's a hefty price for laces, though still cheaper than most Mars exploration missions. And let's not forget the logistics. Transporting 18 million shoelaces to Mars would require a fleet of rockets, and probably the world's largest laundry hamper to keep them untangled. So there you have it. It would take 17,786,667 shoelaces to wrap around the circumference of Mars. How many ping pong balls would it take to fill an entire concert hall? Imagine this. You're at a concert, surrounded by the incredible acoustics of a grand hall, but instead of music, a strange thought pops into your head. What if we filled this entire space with ping pong balls? How many would it take? Let's bounce into this fun calculation together. First, let's size up the concert hall. A standard concert hall has an average volume of about 56,000 cubic meters. That's enough space to hold an orchestra, an audience, and apparently millions of ping pong balls. Now let's talk ping pong balls. The average ping pong ball has a diameter of 4 centimeters, giving it a volume of about 33.5 cubic centimeters, or 0.000000335 cubic meters. These tiny spheres might seem small, but when multiplied, they can fill quite a lot of space. Here's where the math comes in. To find out how many ping pong balls it would take, we divide the total volume of the concert hall, 56,000 cubic meters, by the volume of a single ping pong ball, which is 0.000000335 cubic meters. When we crunch the numbers, 56,000 divided by 0.0000335 equals 1.67 billion ping pong balls. That's right, you'd need 1.67 billion ping pong balls to fill an entire concert hall. But wait, let's consider packing efficiency. Ping pong balls don't stack perfectly because of their spherical shape. Factoring in a packing efficiency of about 64%, thanks to sphere packing theory, we'll need even more balls to account for the empty space between them. After adjusting, the new total is around 2.6 billion ping pong balls. Now, let's put that into perspective. If you laid all those ping pong balls side by side in a single line, they'd stretch around the Earth's equator over 6 times. And at an average cost of 10 cents per ball, this project would set you back $260 million. A hefty price for a haul of bouncing fun. And don't forget the logistics. Transporting, storing, and unloading 2.6 billion ping pong balls would be a monumental task. Not to mention cleaning them up afterward. So there you have it. 2.6 billion ping pong balls to fill an entire concert hall, making it the world's most entertaining acoustical experiment. How many teaspoons of glitter would it take to coat an entire amusement park? Imagine this. You're walking through an amusement park, marveling at the roller coasters, Ferris wheels, and all the carnival magic. Then, a sparkly thought crosses your mind. What if we coated this entire park in glitter? How many teaspoons would it take? Let's dive into this dazzling question and crunch some glittery numbers. First, let's estimate the size of the amusement park. A typical park covers an area of about 100 acres, which equals 4.35 million square feet. That's a lot of room for rides, games, and sparkly transformations. Next, let's talk about glitter. A single teaspoon of glitter has a coverage area of about 1 square foot when spread in a thin, even layer. That's surprisingly efficient for something so tiny and sparkly. Now, here's where the math comes in. To find out how many teaspoons of glitter we'd need, we divide the total area of the amusement park, 4.35 million square feet, by the coverage of 1 teaspoon, which is 1 square foot. When we do the math, 4.35 million divided by 1 equals 4.35 million teaspoons of glitter. That's right, you'd need 4.35 million teaspoons of glitter to coat the entire amusement park. But let's put this into perspective. A teaspoon of glitter weighs about 5 grams. Multiply that by 4.35 million teaspoons, and you're looking at 21.75 million grams, or 21.75 metric tons of glitter. That's as heavy as 3 African elephants. And what about the cost? A typical jar of glitter holds about 100 grams and costs around $5. To buy enough glitter for the park, you'd need 217,500 jars, setting you back over $1 million. That's a lot of sparkle and a lot of money. Now imagine the logistics. Transporting over 21 tons of glitter would take multiple trucks, and applying it would require an army of workers with endless patience. And once the glitter is on, good luck cleaning it up. It's called the herpes of craft supplies for a reason. So there you have it, 4.35 million teaspoons of glitter to coat an entire amusement park, creating the ultimate sparkly paradise. How many marshmallows would it take to cushion a free-falling car? Imagine this. You're staring at a bag of marshmallows enjoying their squishy softness when a bizarre question pops into your mind. Could marshmallows cushion the fall of a car dropped from a great height? And if so, how many would it take? Let's jump into this fluffy experiment and calculate the unthinkable. First, let's look at the car. The average car weighs about 1.5 tons or 3,000 pounds. For simplicity, let's imagine the car is dropped from a height of 30 meters, about 100 feet. At that height, gravity accelerates the car to a speed of about 24.2 meters per second by the time it hits the ground. That's roughly 54 miles per hour. A significant impact. Next, let's talk about our squishy heroes. Marshmallows. A standard marshmallow measures about 4 cubic centimeters in volume, weighs around 5 grams, and can compress significantly under weight. For this calculation, we'll assume a marshmallow can absorb 1 pound of force before squishing completely flat. Now, let's calculate the total impact force of the falling car. In simple terms, force equals mass times velocity, divided by the time it takes for the impact to occur. The mass of the car is 3,000 pounds, or 1,360 kilograms. The velocity of the car is 24.2 meters per second when it hits the marshmallows. The time refers to how long the marshmallows can extend the impact duration, which we'll estimate at 0.2 seconds. When we put it all together, the total impact force comes out to 163,200 pounds. That's the amount of force the marshmallows need to absorb to cushion the car safely. Now comes the fun part. Since each marshmallow can absorb 1 pound of force, we'll need 163,200 marshmallows to handle the impact. But that's not all. We also need to calculate the volume. Each marshmallow takes up 4 cubic centimeters, so 163,200 marshmallows would occupy 652,800 cubic centimeters, or about 23 cubic meters. That's the size of a large swimming pool filled with marshmallows. What about the cost? A bag of marshmallows containing around 250 pieces costs about $3. To buy 163,200 marshmallows, you'd need 653 bags, which would set you back just under $2,000. Not bad for a fluffy safety net. So there you have it. It would take 163,200 marshmallows to cushion a free-falling car from a height of 30 meters. How many piano keys would you need to create a bridge across a river? Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a river, and instead of a regular bridge, you picture something much more musical. A bridge made entirely of piano keys. But how many keys would it take to make this harmonious crossing? Let's strike the right notes and calculate. First, let's size up the river. An average river, like the width of the Thames in central London, spans about 250 feet across. That's our target distance for the bridge. Now let's talk about piano keys. A standard piano key is about 8.75 inches long and 2.5 inches wide, giving it a surface area of 21.875 square inches, or approximately 0.15 square feet. For this calculation, we'll focus on the length of the keys, which is 8.75 inches, or about 0.73 feet. To determine how many keys we'd need to span the 250 feet of the river, we divide the length of the river by the length of a single piano key. So 250 feet divided by 0.73 feet equals approximately 342 piano keys laid end to end. But we're building a bridge, not just a single line of keys. To make the bridge wide enough for people to walk across, we'll need a width of about 6 feet. Each piano key is 2.5 inches wide, or 0.21 feet. To create a 6-foot wide bridge, we divide 6 by 0.21, which equals approximately 29 piano keys laid side by side. Now, to calculate the total number of keys needed, we multiply the length, 342 keys, by the width, 29 keys. The result, 9,918 piano keys to construct a bridge wide enough and long enough to span the river. What about weight and strength? Piano keys aren't exactly built to support people, so we might need to reinforce the bridge by stacking additional layers of keys. If we add a second layer for stability, the total number of keys doubles to 19,836 piano keys. And then there's the cost. A replacement piano key costs around $2 on average. Multiply that by 19,836 keys, and you're looking at a total cost of $39,672. Quite the investment for a musical walkway. Now imagine the sight, a gleaming bridge of white and black keys stretching across the river, creating music with every step. Crossing the bridge wouldn't just get you to the other side, it would turn the journey into a performance. So there you have it. It would take 9,918 piano keys for a single layer bridge, or 19,836 keys for a reinforced version. How many puppies would fit inside a typical family car? Imagine this. You're heading out for a drive, and instead of passengers, you're filling your car with something far cuter. Puppies. Naturally, the question arises, how many puppies would fit inside a typical family car? Let's park our curiosity here and calculate the answer. First, let's size up the car. A typical family car, like a sedan, has an interior volume of about 100 cubic feet. That includes the seating area and the trunk, assuming you've cleared it out to make room for all those wagging tails. Next, let's talk puppies. The average puppy is around 12 inches long, 6 inches wide, and 8 inches tall, which gives them a total volume of 576 cubic inches. To keep things consistent, let's convert that to cubic feet, since there are 1,728 cubic inches in a cubic foot. A puppy takes up about 0.33 cubic feet of space. Now let's crunch the numbers. To figure out how many puppies would fit, we divide the total interior volume of the car, 100 cubic feet, by the volume of a single puppy, which is 0.33 cubic feet. The result? 303 puppies. That's right. A family car could theoretically hold 303 puppies if they were snuggled together like a living, wagging jigsaw puzzle. But let's consider practicality. Puppies need space to move and breathe, so we can't pack them wall to wall like sardines. If we give each puppy a little extra room, say 0.5 cubic feet, the number drops to about 200 puppies. Still, that's a lot of cuteness for one car ride. Now let's visualize this. Imagine opening the doors to a car packed with 200 fluffy puppies. It would be a scene of pure joy and chaos. Puppy tails wagging, paws everywhere, and non-stop barking. Forget carpooling, this is puppy pooling. But let's not forget the logistics. Feeding, transporting, and cleaning up after 200 puppies would require some serious dedication, and probably a lot of lint rollers. So there you have it. A typical family car could fit 303 tightly packed puppies, but a more comfortable ride would mean about 200 puppies. How many hours of Spotify streaming would it take to equal the average screen time of a Gen Z user in a day? You're sitting there scrolling through TikTok while your Spotify playlist plays in the background, and suddenly it dawns on you. How many jams would I need to stream to match all the screen time I'm juggling? I mean, who hasn't wondered, am I binging on music or just trying to drown out the sound of my own existential dread? But no worries. Let's crunch the numbers together. First up, we've got to establish what a Gen Z user is. They're typically born between the mid-90s and early 2010s, giving them all the qualifications needed to be the most screen-obsessed generation ever. According to Common Sense Media, Gen Z spends an average of 7 hours a day glued to their screens for entertainment. Yep, that means more than a whole workday of video streaming, gaming, and social scrolling. On the flip side, the average time they spend on Spotify is about 1.5 hours a day. So, how do we make these numbers dance? To match that daily screen time, you'd need to crank up your Spotify to a whopping 7 hours a day. That's right, imagine blasting your favorite tunes nonstop, your earbuds glued to your head like they're training wheels on your emotional roller coaster. Just remember, you're not just replacing passive screen time. You've got to feel the music. So there you have it. If you want to vibe for a full day without a screen break, you'll need to stream 7 hours on Spotify.